Welcome to the Michael Adekoleye Show. Today we're here with Professor Kingsley Ayodele Moghalu, a former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, a former lawyer, a former UN official. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Michael.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, let's start with the name Ayodele. Where is this name from?
Well, I was born in Lagos in 1963. My parents, my father, Isaac Moghalu, and my mother, Vida Moghalu, we are very avid nationalists. And so my godmother was a Yoruba woman,
Wow.
and a very famous one at that, and that is Fumilayo Ransom Kuti,
Wow.
Fela's mother. And she was the one who gave me the name Ayodele.
Sir, what made you decide to throw your hat in the ring to run for the president of Nigeria?
Well, I know some people have asked me if,
Question over and over.
yeah, if I'm mad or if I need to see a psychiatrist.
Yes.
But that tells you how politics is viewed in Nigeria.
Nigeria.
But I decided that my own personal success was increasingly meaningless in the face of so much poverty around me in Nigeria. And it's the poverty really that drove me to want to do something, given my economic background and some of the ideas I have about how we can help the most vulnerable people in our society to really move from poverty into the middle class. And so the whole vision is wrapped around one acronym, WAP, War Against Poverty. A decisive war against poverty. And it's a war that if I become president, we will win.
You see, we've had so many people come out, so many politicians come out.
Yeah.
What makes Professor Kingsley Moghalu tick? What makes you different from all the other politicians?
I think what makes me different, first of all, is who I am. I don't only have the capacity and the competence and the character, which is, of course, what makes me who I am, but I also have the compassion for the poor, for the people of Nigeria. I'm in this with my heart. I'm not inside this for any ambition. I'm in this with a vision for the people of Nigeria, especially our poor people. And so that's what I think makes me different. I think what also makes me different is the preparation that I have to be president of Nigeria. I would say, without wanting to be immodest, that I'm the most prepared candidate standing in the race today, because there are three things the next president of Nigeria must do and do well.
Yes.
The first is to heal Nigeria and build a nation. Nigeria is a broken country. We're just a collection of tribes and religions, and there is no real unity of purpose. So to heal Nigeria and build a nation is a task that must be done, nation building. Number two is what I talked about, the war against poverty. WAP. You can couple that with the war against prejudice. You can couple that with women as partners. It's WAP, WAP, WAP all the way. So that's a very important thing that needs to be done, because Nigeria is now the poverty capital of the world. We have more people living in extreme poverty in this country than in any other country of the world. And just a report that just came out from the Bill Gates Foundation says that by 2040, Nigeria and the Democratic Republic of the Congo will have the highest numbers of people anywhere in the world living in extreme poverty. So the third thing is that we have to restore Nigeria's standing in the world. And that calls for knowledge and experience of international relations and diplomacy. How do you project and protect Nigeria's interest in the world? Now, if you look at my background, 17 years as a United Nations official, rising from entry level to the highest career rank, and in a very competitive environment with the best and brightest from all over the world. I have had many assignments at leadership level in nation building. I've helped to fix and rebuild several broken nations, from Cambodia to Croatia, from Angola to Rwanda. So if I can do that in other countries, I would like to do it in my country, which needs it. If you look at my background as a deputy governor of the central bank, I have the economic leadership and management background and knowledge to fix the Nigerian economy. If you look again at my career in international relations and the fact that I've been a professor of international business and public policy in one of the world's most prestigious schools of international affairs, the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy at Tufts University in Massachusetts, and I was the only black man on the faculty at the Fletcher School, you will see that again I have been prepared with knowledge and experience in international relations and diplomacy. I hold a doctorate degree in international relations from the London School of Economics. So if you look at all these things, who is prepared? I would say that I am. And on top of that, I have the personal compassion to really focus my government and my governance on the people. It's not going to be government by politicians for politicians of politicians, which is what we have today.
Yes.
The politicians are in it just for themselves. They have always won every election. In 2019, the reason why I'm running for president is so that the people of Nigeria will win for the first time in our history.
Sir, you spoke about poverty.
Yeah.
And one of the key enablers of poverty is corruption.
Yeah.
How do we make our politicians, how will we be able to hold our politicians accountable to the people?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I mean, you know, corruption is a very big problem in Nigeria. And we have to, in order to fight corruption successfully, we have to be competent to fight corruption. It's not enough to just talk about fighting corruption. It's not enough to use corruption as a political football, like the current government has used it to demonize their political opponents, but they have not been successful in reducing corruption. Transparency International has just given us a report which shows that corruption has increased in Nigeria. We've dropped down the ranks on the corruption index. So my approach to fighting corruption is an approach that actually addresses the problem successfully. The first thing you must do in order to fight corruption successfully is that you must know that corruption is a symptom of a breakdown of value systems. When the value system in a society breaks down, then you'll have a lot of corruption. So you must first of all go and tackle the value system question. And I propose to do that as president by beginning with the young children, creating a new generation of Nigerians who understand what's right and what's wrong, who understand what's moral and what's immoral. And we will do that by teaching ethics in primary schools and secondary schools. We will do that by creating a foundational worldview of the Nigerian state that tells every young person what it means to be a Nigerian and the idea of greatness in Nigerianness. So that breeds patriotism. And then you begin to understand that being corrupt is an unpatriotic act. You see? So it happens first and foremost in the mind. So it's in the mind that we must first fight it. Then secondly, we have to be very proactive about fighting corruption, not reactive like the current government has been. We have to put in place systems that, as much as possible, prevent acts of corruption from taking place. So, for example, under my government, if I become president, we will say that all budgets that are submitted, all the budgets that we will submit to the National Assembly, will go through a forensic audit so that there will be no budget padding. If we find any attempt to pad the budget, we will hold that department and the functionaries there accountable. So that's number one. We have to put in place more transparent systems of processing contracts in Nigeria. So these are the areas of heavy-duty official corruption. We also have to ensure that accountability for acts of corruption is impartial. It doesn't matter who is corrupt, we deal with any act of corruption that we find. So, as president of Nigeria, my fight against corruption will start from inside my own government. It is the officials of my government that I will first hold accountable for acts of corruption. Before talking about political opposition, you cannot have a situation where, as someone said, you treat allegations of corruption in your own government with deodorant, and you treat allegations of corruption against political opposition with insecticide. That's wrong. That's not a fight against corruption.
No, it's not.
So, but that's what we see in Nigeria today. And that's why corruption is still there. Then you know, in order to fight corruption successfully, you also have to address questions of social security. Many people get into acts of corruption because they're afraid of what will happen to them in their old age in the public service when they retire and there's nobody to take care of them. Their pension is very little. Yeah. We don't have social security for our old people in this country. Yeah. So my government will take a look at these things and we will create proper social security for people in old age in Nigeria. We will create a social security system that will actually work. So you know that when you're no longer in positions of power or authority, your basic needs can still be met. You will still have a roof over your head. Yeah. So these are the kinds of approaches that I have towards the fight against corruption. And I think we will be far more effective at fighting corruption in this way than just mouthing off and making noise and using corruption just as a tool to win votes. And when you get into office, as we've seen with this government, corruption continues and they can't do anything about it, especially the corruption inside their own government. So that's my approach to corruption.
So staying with corruption, the people on the street that are going to queue up in 2019.
Yes, absolutely.
They are going to be bribed, given Indomie, rice, clothes,
5,000 naira,
5,000 naira, 3,000 naira.
Yes,
votes.
I know.
What will be your stand against such? Or what would you tell the people?
Yes, and that's what we're telling them now, because we're doing a lot of political sensitization. And we are telling people that you cannot possibly, your destiny and your humanity is worth far more than 5,000 naira. If you really must ask politicians to bribe you to vote for them according to your value, you should never ask for less than 10 million. If you must do that, but it's a crime, and so I don't recommend that anybody should do that. Yes. So we're telling people, please don't sell your vote, because when you sell your vote, you're selling your destiny. It is better that you elect people who can build a system that works for everybody than that you take 5,000 naira, which you eat in one day, go to the toilet, and flush your future down the toilet. And that's it. Meanwhile, 4 years later, your son still doesn't have a job. Your daughter still doesn't have a job. You still don't have a good health clinic near you. So what have you gained by selling your vote? So these are the kinds of conversations we are having with our citizens. Poverty is a big problem. And that is why, again, the central feature of my presidency is WAP, War Against Poverty, because poverty distorts the way we think. And it makes us look only at now, not to think about tomorrow. People are just so hungry that they want their immediate needs met now. And in that process, they forget that they are making a big mistake. That's why fighting poverty is very important to building a progressive Nigerian society. Because poverty, but the politicians have left our people poor. And after keeping them poor, they use their poverty to oppress them. That's why we cannot make progress in Nigeria except we reject the current old recycled politicians at the ballot box in 2019.
Sir, one of your previous interviews, you said you're going to create an innovation-led economy.
Yes.
Can you give us an insight into that?
Yes. I mean, innovation is the secret of the wealth of nations. If you look at the Western world, if you look at Japan, for example, in Asia, you will see that how they rose was by scientific innovation. The invention of new things, whether it's electricity, whether it's the camera that is photographing us now, whether it is, the toilet seat. A lot of very basic inventions made the quality of life much better. We now live longer in those societies. So the invention and the innovation of new things is what creates the wealth of nations, because when those inventions are made, a venture capitalist will come and invest in the invention and it will be mass produced. And as that invention is now being sold in the marketplace, everybody wants a better quality of life. Everybody is getting rich. The inventor has gotten rich because his or her intellectual property in the first place is protected. There's a patent that is registered as a license. anybody who wants to use that innovation must pay for it because it's somebody's invention. So that is property and it is wealth.
Well,
So this is the kind of economy I want to bring to Nigeria. Not an economy that depends on the worship of the small gods of small things like the crude oil price and export reliance on crude oil. That is the worship of the god of small things. And I want it to end in Nigeria. In any case, you must note that by 2030 and 2040, many countries in Europe will stop using, petrol in their vehicles, diesel. They will be using, electric cars. So what is our future? Are we just not thinking and exposing ourselves to continuing poverty when events just catch up with us and we are reacting? We should plan ahead for a post-oil future. And that means that I want to move that's why I say I'm moving the economy towards innovation. There's a lot of bright young people in this country who invent things. We just see it on the pages of newspapers and we clap, but nothing happens. There's no mass production of that product. And so our lives don't get any better because of their inventions. This will change when I become president.
Staying on the topic of innovation.
Yes.
So one of the key things that's driving the UK economy is software development.
Absolutely.
So how will you help software developers in Nigeria to work in an enabling environment where they'll be able to develop things that is usable worldwide? Yes,
but that is, right now in Nigeria, people are developing apps. First of all, I'm going to move for a constitutional amendment that puts intellectual property into the Constitution. To start with. Because the secret of every successful capitalist economy is three things. Number one, property rights, which includes intellectual property. Number two, innovation. Number three, capital. So we will be, because we create an enabling environment for innovation and science and technology, that will include software development. So people who develop software for applications and for other kinds of things that can help life in Nigeria be better or more efficient, they will find a very enabling environment in my government because we will increase government subventions for research and development, including in IT. My government will support heavily research and will fund or support the commercialization of research. So, for example, when people develop software, we will have an a venture capital fund. A 1 trillion naira venture capital fund that my government is going to establish. It will be a public-private partnership. The government will bring 500 billion. The private sector will bring 500 billion. And it will be the private sector part of the partnership that will manage the fund so that there is no politics. That fund will invest in things like software developments, other kinds of innovations, and take them to the market. You see what I'm saying? Yes, and that fund will invest in the creation of new businesses by millions of young men and women today in Nigeria who are unemployed. So this is how we will reposition the Nigerian economy. And by doing so, we will also be creating millions of new jobs.
Very true.
So we address the problem of poverty through creation of employment opportunities. You fight poverty structurally. You don't fight poverty by, as we say in Nigeria, making mouth. No. It is by understanding the economics of poverty and how to turn it around and create opportunities for young people to create wealth. That's why the educational system matters heavily. We are going to reform the educational system so that our young people have the kinds of skills that make them more easily employable. And with those skills, they are now armed to be more useful to themselves, to create wealth for themselves. And when you match the skills with the venture capital that we will be bringing into the economy, you will find that there's going to be a massive boost in productivity.
This kind of ties into our next question. Venture capitalists.
Yes.
For them to come into an economy, they need security.
Of course.
And the current issue of security going on in Nigeria, herdsmen, killings.
Yes, absolutely.
Mid-belt's not safe. Some part of the east. What will be your approach to secure lives and property and businesses of people
absolutely
in Nigeria?
First of all, you can't solve a problem if you don't understand the problem. That's number one. So I always first define the problem and then I come with the solution to it. The problem we have in Nigeria today concerning security is that the government of President Muhammadu Buhari does not have the political will to secure Nigeria. Number two, they don't have the professionalism to secure Nigeria. Number three, their concept of national security is too narrow. They have focused national security only on Boko Haram. But we have seen that the herdsmen have become a worse security threat even across the whole country. And the government, for some reason, has not been able to stop these herdsmen and these killings. Yeah. They just make noises, but they don't really do anything. Yeah. You know, so that tells you that there's something that is holding them back. What it is, we don't know, or we can only guess. Could it be parochial considerations? Does that mean that there is a vested interest where the loyalty is more to a subset of the Nigerian state than to the Nigerian state itself? The president has to answer these questions. So my approach to national security is that I will first of all conceptualize national security in its complete form. That includes 1, Boko Haram, 2, herdsmen, 3, kidnapping, 4, armed robbery, 5, computer security, the security of our computer networks. Yeah. 6, the national financial system. That is part of national security. 7, the whole question of poverty becoming so entrenched in Nigeria that poverty is rising today, the population is rising, and unemployment is rising. That's a national security tinderbox right there.
Ready to explode.
Yes, ready to explode. So the understanding of national security has to be more sophisticated, and that's what I will bring. So I will appoint the heads of Nigeria's national security organs on a much more professional basis, from professional officers across the whole country. Today, 16 out of the 17 security agencies in Nigeria are headed by people from one part of the country and from one religion.
Yes.
So the president is making a statement that in itself creates disaffection in various parts of Nigeria, who now begin to agitate. They want to break away because they don't feel that they are members of the part of this country. So the president himself is a fundamental source of the insecurity in this country because he is misgoverning. He cannot lead. He cannot unify Nigeria. I will unify Nigeria, create confidence across the various ethnic groups and religions, and show that we are one country and we can become one nation. Yes. I will also, I forgot to say, a very important aspect of my national security agenda is to create a revamped police force. We are going to recruit, train, and equip 1.5 million new policemen and women in Nigeria over my 4 years of the presidency.
That's very interesting.
Yes.
Sir, I've got one question that kind of ties into your last question. How long would it take for you to form your cabinet?
48 hours.
Wow.
Yes. It took some president we know 7 months. Within 48 hours, I will announce my cabinet. And I will announce my cabinet with each nominee assigned to a portfolio.
Wow. Interesting.
Yes. So because as I am talking to you now, in my head, I am preparing my government. And one of the ways in which we will make sure that we are not just making promises. Yeah. I'm not making you a promise. I'm coming with a plan. And that plan is in this book. And that is build, innovate, and grow. My vision for our country. This is my vision. There is no other presidential candidate who has put his plans or his vision for Nigeria in a book coherently. Yeah. So you will hold me to account for this book, for the vision I have set out in the book. And we will create, when I become president, there will be 4 offices in my government, in the presidency, that will make sure that we execute these plans. They will be, number 1, the Office of National Strategy. Number 2, the National Office of Risk Management. Number 3, the Office of Performance Management. Number 4, the Office of Human Capital Development. So the National Strategy Office will set the grand strategy with the benchmarks and the timelines and what part of the government is responsible for achieving what as part of a whole coherent plan. Yeah. The National Office of Risk Management will help me as president manage the risks that prevent leaders from fulfilling their promises.